All right, I just got back from watching Backrooms. Creepier than a motherfucker. Let's get into it.
Welcome to the Asia Esterak Hour, where film meets conspiracy and pop culture gets a reality check. From sharp recaps to sci-fi theories and media deep dives, Asia Esterak serves it unfiltered. Let the binge begin.
All right, welcome back to the Asia Esterak Hour. I'm Asia Esterak. Okay, you guys. So I decided to go see the A24 film Backrooms this morning on this lovely Sunday afternoon. You know, creep myself the fuck out first thing on a Sunday morning. Anyway, so Backrooms is written and directed by Kane Parsons. Apparently, this was a web series on YouTube originally by the creator, a part of a creepy pasta. I need to go back and watch all of that. I didn't know any of that. So I was totally blind going into this. I saw the trailer, probably like most people. Loved the trailer. Loved how uncomfortable the trailer made me feel. One of my favorite filmmakers of all times, Alfred Hitchcock. Famous quote, always make the audience as uncomfortable as possible. Alfred Hitchcock would have loved this movie. Rod Serling, who created The Twilight Zone, he would have loved this movie. This was definitely a sci-fi psychological horror film. My favorite. Fantastic. I'm not even gonna lie to you. I had a little bit of anxiety before seeing this movie because the last time I had this type of anxiety with the film where a lot of it is your POV was the Blair Witch Project. So, just the whole camcorder handheld situation, it just adds a layer of mystery and, terrifying fucked upness to it. Anyway, so Backrooms takes place in the 90s, which I was loving. The movie stars, and I'm going to get his name right, Chiwetel Ejiofor. He is a British actor who has been in damn near everything. My first time meeting him was in the film Amistad. I was 17 years old, and his fine ass walked through a crowd of sailors. Oh, he was so cute in that movie. Anyway, he would go on to he has such had an amazing career, wonderful catalog, beautiful resume. Everything from Love Actually, um, shit, Four Brothers, which I thought he was great in that. He played a villain. Of course, I'm drawing a blank. He was in a HBO original movie called Deadly Voyage, which was fantastic. I'm doing everything but telling y'all this review. Anyway, all that being said, Chueto, to me, this was one of his best performances. I thought he was great in this movie. The film also it starred a few people, but the other, I guess, other main character in the film, never heard of this lady in my life. She was great. Her first name is Renate. I'm sure I'm saying her name wrong. So anyway, she was in it, and then the lovely Mark Duplass pops up here and there. Mark Duplass. My first introduction to him was on this show on FX called The League. Show was hilarious. Nick Kroll was on it. A bunch of funny people. Really funny show. He was funny, but it's interesting to watch Mark Duplass's career change as well. He's doing a lot more horror and creepy stuff too. So I like him. Anyway, let's get to this movie. So this movie is about Chiweto's character. His name is Clark. He is a recently divorced man who owns a furniture store called Captain Clark's Ottoman Empire. Now, here's what's wild. I used to work for an Ashley Furniture franchise, and me and my co-manager, we used to joke about how wouldn't it be great to tell a horror film that takes place in a furniture store? So I didn't know, even from the previews, I didn't realize that it was going to take place in a furniture store. So when that was like the introduction at the beginning of the movie, I was like, oh, hell yeah. So anyway, the movie opens with VHS footage of someone in these back rooms, and they're looking for, I guess, their crew that they were separated from. And it sounds like they're being hunted or chased by something. So that's the opening scene, which to me set the tone. Then we get into Chewie's character, Clark, and the fact that he owns this Ottoman Empire, Captain Clark's furniture store, which isn't doing very well. And he does the classic, gimmicky commercials where he's dressed up like a pirate trying to get people in. Um, the movie is also intercut with him going to his therapist, played by this woman, Renee, doctor. Her name is Dr. Mary Klein. So here's what's interesting. Also, at the beginning of the movie, we get images of her memory of her mother, who clearly was mentally ill. And it's interesting because I love when movies depict that the psychiatrist is just as messed up as their client. So we learn that she's Clark's doctor. Okay, cool. So his whole thing when they go to meet is that he is still angry at his ex-wife because she lives in the house that he's still paying for. And when we go to him at his furniture store, he's drowning in debt. He owes everybody and their mama, and he's upset because he's still paying for the house that she lives in, which he occasionally drives by and looks at. It's giving OJ. Anyway, so so in one of their sessions, Dr. Mary, his therapist, wants to do a role play where basically she plays the wife and he plays himself. And her whole thing is trying to get him to understand, I guess, his role and his position in the marriage and why it went the way. This is an important role play because it has a lot to do with just the tone of the film. This is funny because this film is very character heavy. The movie is definitely about Clark. It's also about the doctor, Dr. Mary, his shrink. So anyway, we do this role play, and in this role play, Clark is revealing that he's still obviously very angry at his ex-wife and is resentful towards her. And it's funny, he even snaps at the doctor, even though they're role playing. He's, it's still tender, it's still fresh. And there's a reason that I mentioned that because it's important. So anyway, Dr. Mary is dealing with her own shit too because she keeps dreaming about her mom. She keeps dreaming about the time where she put her handprints and her mother's handprints in the cement in front of the house where they live. At the top of the movie, the house that she grew up in is actually getting destroyed, and she keeps like a relic from when her hand was like in the cement. She took part of it because they basically bulldozed and cleared out the whole area. So you already see that these two main characters are both alone, lonely, and dealing with past trauma. Both, one with the wife, one with the mother, right? So anyway, we find out that Clark is not only is he drowning in debt and paying for his ex-wife's house that he owns but he can't live in, he's sleeping in his furniture store. And this is where it gets juicy. So basically, there's been electrical issues in the store. He's called an electrician. He can't figure out what's going on. So one night, he's sleeping in the furniture store, sleeping on one of the displays, watching TV. The TV goes out. Then all the lights go out and they flicker back on. It's being all weird. And he's just like, so he notices that the basement where the arrow is like, there's more downstairs, like more furniture. The light from down there is flickering and it's the only light that's on. So he walks down there. He's turning off the breakers, turning them on, turning them off. He turns them all off. And what him and his electrician had discovered prior is that before that there were three additional breakers in the regular break. So the regular breakers were going totally vertical, and then there were ones that were like diagonal and they were red. Never seen them before. So he turns all the regular ones off and then turns off and on the two red ones. And then now none of the lights will turn on. So he's like bitching to himself, talking shit, annoyed. As he's walking by, he's about to walk back up the stairs from the basement. He sees a sliver of light coming off the wall. And he's looking because it almost looks like the crack of a door opening. And he's like, so he goes over, he presses against the wall and his hand goes through and he's tripping. And then he walks through and he walks into a whole other room. And everything is very fluorescent heavy. So this is another thing. This movie had really good lighting, very fluorescent, uncomfortable, that dewy, yellowy, old school color. And obviously catering to the sign of the times, it being the 90s. Fluorescents were big back then. Um, and just the monochromatic and the toning, the pacing, the slow pacing over. And even when it's from the point of view of like the camcorder, it's still very, but it's not totally shaky, but it's enough to keep you on your toes because you never know when the camera turns what you're going to run into. You do know that there's something down there with them. They can hear it. So anyway, Clark figures out that he's found something, a portal, some shit. So the room that he walks into, all this furniture is like stacked like up high against the ceiling in the middle of the room. So he's walking around, he's walking through these rooms. It's just like vast emptiness of different corridors. And he's walking through and he hears this weird like recording playing over and over again. And he turns down this hall and there's like this figure and it looks like a cutout and it's repeating a message that's in different languages over and over again. I kind of caught the French one. All I heard was welcome something. That's all that I heard. I guess when I watch it again with the subtitles on, it'll tell me. But anyway, so he walks up to it. The cutout was of some man or something. They never fully explain that. I probably need to watch it again. The movie is clearly layered. I feel like Backrooms is a movie where you're gonna watch it, you're gonna pick up on other shit. Um, the movie gave me a Twilight Zone, Charlie Kaufman, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind / Christopher Nolan, ambiguous S type of filmmaking, storytelling, which I'm here for. I'm here for. Sometimes I like when shit isn't explained. I just like when shit just is. So anyway, as he walks up to this thing, he noticed that it's wired into something. And in the room, the wires go all the way to this door and there's a camera. And he's like, so he walks in and he's looking at the camera. So we go into a room where we see someone watching him on the camera. We actually see later who's watching him, and then we see that same character later on as well. It's interesting because all the characters in the movie are connected, but they aren't connected. If you know what I mean. If you watch the movie, you'll understand that statement. Um, this is where the rabbit hole gets even crazier. He ends up pushing through the door that the wires are coming through and open. No, I'm sorry. He doesn't push through. He tries to. He's looking through the room and he notices that something is like sticking underneath one of the like panels of the wall, pulls it open and there is an empty bag, right? And there's a bag with like supplies in it. But the bag, when he opens it, there's a hallway that is like a crawl space that leads to another room. So his brilliant mind decides to climb through it. I wish I would climb through a little ass crawl space. Okay. And I forgot to mention this when he first comes in the room, when he first crawls in through the back rooms and he passes the first room, he comes across a stop sign that is like flipped. It's inverted. So it looked like it says pots instead of stop. That's important. Anyway, he goes through the crawl space into this other room, and that's where he sees this like whole like data center set up and a bunch of like scattered stuff everywhere. Like somebody was in there, but nobody's there. And he hears this sound of like something coming. Anyway, he ends up running from whatever he's hearing and crawls out and comes back and he's like blown away. So the next day he goes to his therapist and he's telling her this. And of course she's looking at him like he's crazy. And he's telling her, he's like, have you ever 5150 anybody? And 5150, lock him up for being crazy. And she's like, I have occasionally. And he basically is like, you're going to think I'm crazy. But he goes, I don't know how to explain this to you. It's like trying to explain to someone what a dog is and they've never seen what a dog is. So she's looking at him crazy and he's like, I'm going to prove it to you. Now, here's what I failed to mention. So Clark is an architect, right? And that's another thing that him and his wife would argue about because his whole thing is I'm sitting here working my ass off. I'm still an architect, but I'm working my ass off to support you while you're in school. If I didn't have to work here, if I didn't have to support you, I could be doing more. Again, the level of resentment. Anyway, he becomes obsessed with this. He ends up getting two of his employees to help him. He wants to map out and he wants to film and he wants to show the shrink what's going on. They end up going, they all rig up. He convinces the two to go with them. Long story short, they all get stuck down there, and then the therapist has to go down there to find them. She gets a weird, creepy, ominous message from Clark, Chiwetel's character, which leads her to go to the store, which has her end up finding the back rooms herself. And then she has to deal with what she finds down there. And what she finds down is very eye opening. And for me, the movie's ending has a very ambiguous ending. I feel like you can interpret it a certain type of ways. I'm not going to give anything away. I think this is a movie that you should watch because I think you would enjoy it. It's definitely one of these films where you can't guess what's going to happen next. You really can't. Um, this movie is creepy as fuck. It's creepy as hell because it's your imagination that's going to fuck with you the whole movie. And low key, it reminded me of a friend, an old roommate that would play Silent Hill. That's what this movie reminded me of a little bit. Not the movie Silent Hill, but just the walking into a room and looking in your POV and not knowing what you're gonna find. Um, this was a good movie, very creepy, definitely a psychological thriller. I love the ambiguity of it all. This movie definitely addresses topics of loneliness and I think accountability in a weird way. If you see the movie, you'll know what I'm talking about. But I enjoyed it. I would give this out of a 10. I would definitely give this movie like a good eight stars, 8 out of 10, definitely. Um, and the movie is an hour and 57 minutes, 51 minutes, but it moves. It moves. Um, Pacing was great. Love the sound design was fantastic. This is one of these movies where the sound is going to be a major role in it. The sound, the music, um, and Chiwetel, I loved his performance in this. I like when he can be really mean. He's good at being evil. And he don't play evil enough for me. Anyway, Kane Parsons is new. I've never heard of this person. I don't know if Kane Parsons is male or female, is given male, but I've never heard of this filmmaker till this film. And I definitely will be watching more after this. If this was your first attempt at a feature film, well bloody done. Anyway, Backrooms is in theaters, only in theaters. Will be available for streaming at the end of June. But if you know, go support the movie. Go see it in theaters. I think it's a good theater experience. I saw it by myself, which was insane. But I had a room full of I had a full theater, so I wasn't totally by myself. But this was a good movie. I give it an 8 out of 10. Anyway, happy Sunday, you guys. Stay hydrated. Stay happy. Be nice to each other. And I'm gonna go return these videotapes.